Retirement in South Africa remains a complex challenge, or as Viresh Maharaj puts it, a Gordian knot. In this conversation, the CEO of retail at Alexforbes shares how they're cutting through it with a bold, inclusive approach to advice, reaching over 1 million income earning South Africans. Welcome, Viresh, and thank you for your time.
Hi, Renette.
You describe retirement savings in South Africa as a Gordian knot. Why has this problem remained unsolved for so long, despite years of analysis and commentary?
So perhaps a couple of things first. For those who are unfamiliar with the Gordian knot itself, legend has it that when Alexander the Great visited the city of Gordian, there was a knot. It was a massive knot, complex, and the challenge was whoever undid the knot would go on to rule all of Asia. And many had tried, but all had failed up until that point. And he took a very bold step. Instead of trying to undo the knot, he unsheathed his sword and cut straight through it. And for us, it was a great analogy of retirement savings in South Africa, because the story of the 6% of South Africans who can afford to retire comfortably, the analysis that some show that the real retirement age is above 80, that's been there forever. Mm-hmm. And despite many attempts, despite many conferences, despite many white papers, the knot remains. Yep. But in our view, there is a solution. And the solution is quite simply that if every member receives financial advice, then we can free them from that knot. In our view, and it's a view shared by many, that financial advice is a superpower. I mean, if you look at Momentum's research that came through a few weeks back, I think in their work, they show that those who receive financial advice have about 9.5 times more invested than those who don't. And that only 9% of households receive financial advice. So for us, the most obvious solution to change the narrative, to actually change the outcome, is to cut through that knot by enabling access to professional financial advice to each and every single one of our members, irrespective of income, age, or wealth status.
I love the analogy, by the way, as a start. And I agree with you. The conversation keeps on happening and nothing changes. What I have picked up from previous conversations, and I think we've spoke about it as well, is the fact that the two-part retirement system, although it's not in everyone's idea of the ideal situation, opened up a lot of conversations for people who've never ever had conversation about financial advice. So just a note on my side on that. Do you agree with that?
So I think what the two-part system certainly did in our environment, so institutional retirement funding specifically, is that for the first time, many retirement fund members began to interact with their institutional retirement fund.
For the first time, right?
For the absolute first time. In fact, I think if you look at the various stats done over the years, 90% of people tend not to look at their retirement options apart from day one when they joined their employer. People first seek advice, if they ever do, within 9 years of retirement. So there's some runway to make some change, but you should be seeking at least 19 years before. And with the two-part, I love to use this analysis, or this analogy now, or not analogy, this comparison. In September and October 2023, so the year before the two-part, we received in total 30,000 logins to our member portal, AF Connect, in those 2 months. I'm putting you on the spot, Renette. For September and October 2024, with the two-part, would you like to guess how many logins we processed in those 2 months?
I want to say double, but I think it's more than that.
So you say double. 7.7 million.
What? Yep. Unbelievable.
And we only have 1 million members. So it's not that now that we've created people out of nowhere. People obviously kept coming back in, and on the channel you were able to track your two-part claim status, and people were checking in for the very first time. In fact, now we have over 1 million people registered on AF Connect, which means it's the majority of our active membership base. For the very first time, are interacting with their retirement fund administrator which means they're more engaged with what's in their retirement fund. It's on the back of this engagement, as well as the digital suite that we've been building deliberately over the last number of years, that we're now in a position to interact with, to engage with, and provide financial advice to each of those members, whether in person through a human advisor at the workplace or using our digital automated advice platform.
Sure. That is incredible. So one thing opened up that whole conversation. You've launched the most inclusive application of financial advice in the country. What does that look like in practical terms for members?
So I call it the most inclusive application of financial advice because, and both realistically and understandably so, a typical advisor has to serve an economically viable segment of the population. It's fundamental to running a sustainable business. But what that means is that there's a missing bottom and a missing middle. And there's an age dynamic to that where large portions of an employee base simply go unserved or underserved. And it's the structure of the industry that contributes to this Gordian knot. So it's one of the main contributors to this Gordian knot. How that is changed for our members is that Alexforbes allows and enables access to advice, human advice. So let's start with the human advisors first.
Yeah.
For members, when they're joining a fund, at any point during their active membership, they can reach out to one of our advisors. When they're exiting a fund due to resignation or retrenchment, as well as building up to and through retirement itself, they have that access today. Do all institutions take up that access? No. But do all of the members have access? Yes. So what we're doing now is simply communicating the fact that, hey, financial advice is a superpower. This is the difference it can make to you. And you do have access to financial advice irrespective of your personal circumstances. And this is how you get a hold of us. The how you get a hold of us is through a range of different mechanisms. We run a number of workplace interventions through the course of our last financial year, so April 24 to March 25, we held around 600 wellness days at corporates around South Africa. And that's the function of our size as the largest administrator in the country, largest benefit consultant in the country. And what's not actually widely recognized is that we're a top 3 IFA firm in the country. We've got over 280 financial advisors in Alexforbes dealing with individual clients. We advise assets in our retail space of over 110 billion rands. And it's on the back of that that I say that we're probably the best kept secret in South African financial services, including amongst our own membership base. And what we're doing now is trying to let them know that help exists. This is what it can do for you, and this is how to access it. So we've got the in-person capabilities to create that accessibility. We've also got a range of digital mechanisms. So we've got outbound WhatsApp capabilities when a member joins a fund, while they're a member of the fund, and when they're exiting, either at resignation or as they build up to retirement itself. And that's been a game changer for us. I'll say that we received over 40,000 requests for financial advice on the back of those outbound WhatsApps. And clearly, not all of those result in actual financial advice. And yes, many of those are actually relating to fund queries. But the fact is, now you've got people actually interacting and asking for help. A subset of that help is on financial advice. Then, and this is a very exciting piece, in February last year, we completed the transaction where we purchased Outvest from Outsurance. Okay. And Outvest is an award-winning digital wealth management platform, and we've spent time lifting and shifting their IT infrastructure into Alexforbes, rebranding and integrating it into our business. And what that means now is that when you as a member log into AF Connect, guess what? You've got access to those capabilities. We've called the platform AF Invest because we had to name it something, but for all intents and purposes, it's Alexforbes. As a member, you've got access to that. And that platform is accredited financial advice. It's different to going onto any provider's platform. You can buy a financial product, you can buy a unit trust, you can buy a TFSA anywhere you want. You're buying a product. This is financial advice. There's a range of questions that helps to risk profile an individual, get a sense of their cash flow and debt situation, and recommend an investment strategy and contribution pattern to help them reach their stated investment destination. What's great is that, and I'm not sure that this stat exists elsewhere, I'd love to know if it does. What we've seen is that for clients who follow the automated advice from the platform, 86% of them reach their goals. And we're not sure that that stat actually exists elsewhere. So we're looking for a comparison. The only other one that we're aware of is that 94% of retirement fund members don't reach their goals.
Wow, that is an amazing number. And although we are obviously pro the financial advisor and broker, I think we have to recognize that there is space for a combination of both. And it probably starts off a lot of the time with the digital and might end up including the advisor, right?
Absolutely. So inevitably, the human beings want to speak to a human being.
Yeah.
And even if it's to follow the automated advice, and when I say automated advice, it's not the old school, let's pull out a risk profile and you just get plugged into a product. I would encourage any of the viewers here just to log on, have a look. You can Google it, Alexforbes Invest, and play around. I think you might be surprised at what you actually experience, the upfront advice, the annual reviews that come with it. And for an advisor, in fact, the reason we purchased the platform wasn't necessarily to go to members directly. It was actually to enable our advisors, because the platform has two instances, one for direct and two for advisors. And that's actually why we've purchased the platform. We've rolled that through 90% of our own advisors already. And we're also able to white label the platform for IFAs. And many of the prominent IFAs in the country, and even in the outshore days, were already significant users of the platform. And it's part of our strategy as we embrace IFAs into the Alexforbes suite of capabilities, that this is actually an incredible practice enabler that helps an IFA practice manage and deliver financial advice efficiently at scale. The same reason we bought it for our advisors makes sense for an IFA's own practice.
That is really amazing. And I think it was important for me to ask that question, because there's always the thing that people think they will be replaced by a robot. But in this case, and so many times we want to say that this is only there to assist you and make your job a little bit easier and a little bit better. And I love the white labeling. I love the fact that it really is an enabler more for the advisor than it is a competition. So
100%. And think of it like this. There are many different use cases. And as we explore it, we're also learning ourselves around the number and variety of different use cases for the capability. But the most obvious is, as an advisor, whether you're an Alexforbes advisor or an IFA or whoever else out there, the challenge you face is that you can only typically deal with people of a certain income or wealth status.
Yeah.
Yet, if you had the capability to engage and advise people who are willing to contribute from 100 Rand per month upwards, you're not able to do that. So imagine having the ability to deliver accredited financial advice into an RA or a TFSA or a goals-based investment or an offshore structure, and have an individual receive advice, provide their information, and be up and running within 10 minutes, paperlessly, no wet signatures, end to end, done. That is what this enables.
That can just be good for the industry, regardless, bottom line.
With an 86% success rate.
100%. No, that is very, very positive. How does your model tackle the challenge of member disengagement until we spoke about it, too late, because that's a age-old problem.
That, again, that's part of the knot. I mean, if you ask a crowd, if you do any research amongst trustees or Manco members or anyone, I mean, the stock standard response you're going to get is, oh, people need to be educated. Oh, we need more financial literacy education. Oh, we need financial literacy in schools. A couple of things in that. Firstly, for those of us who have kids in the public schooling system, financial literacy is part of the CAPS curriculum from grade 7 to grade 9. Perhaps, I mean, in our view, it could be different, it could be more complex, it could be this or that, but it is actually there as we speak today. My grade 7 daughter went into the exam, so I know this factually. I had to run through it myself, and it's actually not bad.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So that's the one. The two is education is important, but it's not the silver bullet. And how I express that is, I mean, for everyone who watches this, think about it yourself. Do you know you should be exercising 5 times a week, 30 minutes a day? And 90% of people put their hands up if you ask them that question in the crowd. And then you say, okay, well, how many of you do that? And
100%, yeah.
You've got one hand left up. And so the question is, well, you've been educated, you know the right answers, so why aren't you doing it? Yeah. And the reason is there's got to be a moment of truth. There's got to be a moment of care where that education meets actual intent. When it comes to exercise, there's typically some kind of health event in your 40s or 50s that causes people to think carefully and change their behaviors, change their habits. And for us, we've applied that same thinking to say, when do we want to be most relevant to our membership base? Hence, these outbound WhatsApps when a member joins the fund, when they're exiting the fund, because it's at that point in time that the right intervention, the right education, and the right access to both counseling and advice is relevant to them, where they can make use of it. The two-pot also changes the dynamic, because now, for the first time, members within the two-pot regime, when they leave a fund, they have to make a choice. What do they do with their retirement pot? It's no longer, how can I cash it out and how fast do I get my money? It's, okay, do I leave it in fund? Do I transfer to a press fund? Do I transfer to my new employer? They now actually need to do something for the first time, which brings their vested pot and whatever savings pot may be there also into scope for a counseling and advice conversation.
Yeah, I love it. It's so positive. So you are engaging over 1 million income earning South Africans already. What is the response from members, and what are the key outcomes that you're aiming for?
So we only really launched this initiative a couple of weeks ago when Davi de Villiers, our group CEO, made the announcement at our results presentation, where the accessibility to financial advice is now available across our entire membership base. So it is very fresh, and I must tell you, as we record today, we're still rolling out within our own consulting force, let alone amongst our own clients. But for instance, access is available via our member portal online, where an individual can go and choose whether to engage digitally or request help from one of our human advisors. But over the last year, over the last couple of years, we've implemented our outbound member engagement suite. And that's been a game changer. If I look back 2 financial years ago, we engaged 50,000 people. Last year it was 450,000. Yes. That we reached out to either physically or digitally and actually connected with them. We got the 2 blue ticks, for instance, on a WhatsApp message. We've had something like 400,000 interactions on our WhatsApp self-service capability. So utilizing technology has had a sharp increase in engagement. And does it mean that everyone's already making the right decisions? No. But what it means is that for the first time in this institutional retirement funding landscape, members are actually starting to interact with, for many of them, their sole source of retirement savings more granularly and more regularly than ever before, which can only lead to better decision making with the superpower of advice added into the mix.
I really love that, because I think one of the things in the past is people didn't know where to start, who to go to. I mean, we can be honest, there was a lot of people that didn't do our industry good, um, that called themselves financial advisors. So there was always this grudge and this negative thing. This for me really opens that, where you can really start seeing the positive impact of the fact that you're making this available to them and it's trusted people. And hopefully we're slowly but surely starting to change that narrative, that people are feeling more positive about saving, about insurance per se, right?
I could not agree with you more, because just imagine if we're successful in this and we get 1 million people, to interact with and engage with financial advice in its different forms through the spectrum. That's 1 million people acting as advocates amongst their friends, amongst their families. So listen, financial advice is doing this for me and it's available. Use it. It helps to not only grow the reputation and reach and scale of financial advice in South Africa. We would hope, as Alexforbes, that this initiative, which we believe is the first and only of its kind in our space for now, is only the first of its kind, and that others in time adopt a similar methodology and make financial advice available through the spectrum of their retirement funds. Because if we look back in 10 years, and this is now just part of how retirement funds operate, then fantastic. That would be the best outcome.
If you have to summarize, we know what 10 years ago looked like. What is your hope, your dream, your realistic expectation for, say, the next 10 years? Where will we go with this?
It's actually great time boxing there. So Alexforbes recently turned 90. So this is our 90th year. And with that 90th, we reflected on our vision and we reframed that our vision into wanting to transform every client's financial journey through the use of inclusive advice, intelligent technology, and impactful solutions so that each member reaches their investment destination. And the key aspects of that, Reenet, is that every client and each individual, because we want, and how we'll know we've succeeded in that vision is if in 10 years, when we reach 100, we've got those 1 million people interacting with, engaging, and receiving the superpower of financial advice. Because yes, the horizons will stretch far beyond 10 years, but we'll be assured that by using this tool, which is now available to them, they are on that journey to transform their financial outcomes.
This is all really, really exciting. Your last message to advisors, the guys that we talk to, and that is very important for your business too.
Look, let me just say this categorically, and I've said it a few times, and I'm going to say it again. We genuinely believe that financial advice is a superpower. We are one of the true and very few genuinely advice-led businesses in South Africa, and you can see it in how we've profiled and raised and rolled this initiative out. Our call to advisors is to engage with us. This is not the Alexforbes of old. I meant what I said earlier, that we are genuinely embracing the IFA market, and in a number of different ways, through the launch of our umbrella fund, Alexforbes One, which includes this promise of financial advice to every member. That doesn't mean it has to be Alexforbes financial advice to every member. It's a promise that the IFA who places a client with us can make to that employer, that they will receive financial advice, and it can be a mix of them plus Alexforbes to enable that scalability. You'll see in a number of different ways that we believe in the future of the financial advice industry in South Africa as one of the bigger advisor networks. We have a role to play in growing the advice brand, also the brand of advice in general, and to enable the sustainability of advice into the future. We've invested heavily into our technology suite, We're investing heavily into our network of IFAs that we're building. So the message to advisors out there is let's have the conversation, because whether we partner, whether we don't, together we have the opportunity to build the brand of advice and to spread the superpower of financial advice that we all believe in and acts as the golden thread between our respective practices.
Viresh, thank you for the chat. It was amazing. Thank you for the very positive message and for the change you are bringing to the world of advice. It is really exciting and it's very positive.
Thank you, Riyad.